Hey Finn,
Hello.
thanks for agreeing to do this.
That's all right.
As we were just saying that this is a bit of an impulsive thing. I got this little. I'm trying to follow like intuitive voices more recently.
Yeah.
Trying to follow if I have something that is a thought or a feeling that's repeated several times. Trying to pay more attention to it and see what happens if I follow it along. Mm-hmm. And when I saw you doing that, it's a 12 hours a day art challenge or art exercise. It just caught my eye. I thought that's one. I went, fuck, I wish I was spending 12 hours a day doing music. And then also like, what a crazy thing to try and do.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about that? What made you to think to do that? How many days in a row did you get through? What was the point of the exercise?
Well, I woke up Monday morning at the start of August, and I didn't want to go to work, and I just knew I had to do it. And I knew, like, I've been having these feelings because I just did this mural for a client, and I've been having these feelings of changing my career from tattooing to art, which I've always wanted to do but never really knew how to do that or if I could do that. So I just thought the quickest way to get a body of work together and to be seen, it's like, you can talk about it all you want, but the only kind of difference you're going to see is actually doing it. And once people see you actually doing it and you're actually like kind of getting it and creating it, then they can it's easier to be like, oh, this is what this person does and this is what this person can do. So I knew I could do that, and 12 hours a day does sound like a lot, and it is a lot, and I struggled a bit, but I just love it so much. So
it kind of like making a little bit of a public statement so that people could see that you were taking it seriously.
Yeah.
And then also, I imagine there's kind of like was it also a proving to yourself in a sense that,
Yeah.
I am committed enough to spend this time?
Yeah, I guess for me, it was if I could actively be doing it every day, and I was just making progress, and in a short period of time, I knew I could make a lot of progress. So all I had was a short period of time before money runs out. Yeah. So I knew I had to do it.
Yeah. Could you?
Oh yeah, sure.
So you had that. How many days did you do?
Well, it's still going really. I kind of, at the end of August, I kind of went from 12 hours to around 8 or 9. And my whole goal was to create works, kind of find a style quickly. And because I've always drawn, and I went to drawing school, but I didn't know how to paint really. And I'd been practicing with acrylics and stuff, and I needed to find just a way I wanted to do things, and I needed to do that quickly. So I just tried out so many different things, and I was just kind of posting very manically, just trying to get as many things done as possible. Because I knew, as with anything you do, the more you do it, the kind of more refined you get at it. So that was just the goal.
Did you find? Because I know that when I'm spending 8, 9, 10 hours working on a song or trying to get from nothing to a piece that comes out of somewhere, wherever it comes from, that there's moments in there where I just feel brain dead and numb, and I feel like I'm not really moving anywhere with it.
Yeah.
So I imagine you had that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And you having things like that happen, what would you do, or what did you find out would help pull you out of that, refresh you, kind of break out of this frame of just I don't know what to do now?
Yeah, it was pretty obvious from when I started painting, whether or not I could do the next few hours, and a lot. Like I had like a pretty strict sleep schedule as well. Like trying to get a lot of sleep in. Like I would just, like I'd go to bed at 10 and then wake up at like 6 and then just go for it. And then if I felt well rested, I felt like I could continue. And then there was periods where I was like tapering off and I smoke a lot of weed
Okay.
to combat that,
Yeah.
basically. So like,
That's really interesting. I found exactly the same thing happens,
Yeah.
right? Like, it's like when you smoke weed, there's a it helps you step out of the frame or whatever
Yeah.
the constraints that you're existing in,
Yeah.
and then it will help you see in a totally different perspective.
Yeah.
Then there's the other side, though. I find that you go too far, you smoke too much, and now you're just kind of like groggily staring at it, or you just
Yeah.
think everything's amazing.
Yeah.
Like you're just like, man, this is the best thing ever.
Yeah.
And I do it with music, and I get really excited, and I start making changes. Then I come back the next day, and I'm like, what was that? Was that happening?
yeah, well, like the way I I feel like it works differently for everyone. And for me, it's like a cup of coffee. It's like I'm just like completely elevated. I'm looking in a different light, like you said, and I'm like in love with it again. And I'm like, okay, I can see that differently. I can see this differently. And that's what kind of kept me going. And like I would get to like, from 3 o'clock, I was like painting from like 6 till 11.
Man, I saw you starting at 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
Some of those videos.
Yeah.
Cup of tea.
And then some nights I'd just like go till like 1 in the night and then go to sleep and then wake up and go again.
You mentioned in there that you had a pretty strict sleep schedule. It's definitely something you hear a lot of people talking about. Have you ever heard of the author Stephen Pressfield?
No.
Stephen Pressfield has these books called like The War of Art and Turning Pro.
I've heard of the War of Art.
Yeah. So basically, in The War of Art, he puts this concept out there called resistance, which is like anything that's basically stopping you from making art. It could be internal doubts, it could be external social pressures,
Yeah.
and your belief that you need to succumb to them and go to things that you don't want to do,
Yeah.
or so on. And then there's also, and in Turning Pro, he moves that idea of resistance to how do you make the transition from someone who is just trying to create or just trying to excel to like what do you do in the day-to-day to start acting like a professional?
Yeah.
And that, I think the sleep schedule thing,
Yeah.
like, if you want to be doing 12 hours of art a day, like you don't want to be hung over for the first like 6 hours of
No,
that because know the art's going to suffer.
Yeah.
You don't want to have like
Yeah.
your phone buzzing off and things like that.
Yeah.
So you've got your sleep schedule. What else are you doing to help you try and focus on it?
Just like eating well and sleeping well, and I didn't really like. There was just no going out or anything. It was just what I knew. I feel like it's about value. Like if you value something highly, you're gonna value that over a lot of other things. So I valued getting this done very highly, and anything I could put parameters in place to do it better, then I'd do that.
Yeah.
And I'm still doing it now. Like it was also like about building that habit. Like now I find it pretty easy to do like long hours because I've just come off like smashing it out. So like now it's not too bad. And there's some days I just feel burnt out. Like yesterday I was like extremely burnt out, but I just kept on doing it. I don't know, like I wasn't really happy with how I was doing it. Like I wasn't really happy with the product, but I knew I would benefit from putting more time into it.
Yeah, and like, it's cool to hear. It's cool to hear you talk about it because definitely feel that in music, right? You just go into finish a day of work after like I'll get up at like 5:30. I've got a freaking dog that I've adopted now, so I'm like, well, walk this dog, and then I go and exercise, and then I go to work, and then I come back, and it's like from 4 until 9:30 or 10 on work days go. And after a work day, disability support work, it's like sometimes you just don't have any energy, and it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
But I suppose it's kind of like any relationship that you have, even with people. Like if you have a friendship that you really care about or a romantic relationship, sometimes you got to like go through periods of it being shit in order because you know that the relationship is worth more than just like ending it there just because it feels shit right now.
Yeah.
So it's probably similar with art. So you mentioned when we were talking just before we started recording, that you'd stopped doing tattoo work,
Yeah.
and then you moved on to the
Yeah.
artwork. So when you got to when did you get down to Melbourne?
Almost 3 years ago, I think.
3 years ago?
No. 2.5 years ago.
And were you tattooing in the northern? You were in the Northern Rivers beforehand.
Yeah, but I just come back from New Zealand.
Oh.
I lived over there for 2 years during COVID, and that's where I studied.
Okay.
And then I came back, and then the floods hit while I was
Yeah.
at my dad's house.
Okay.
So that was interesting.
Where was he? Where is he?
Lismore.
He's in the town.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. So it was pretty wild thing to come back to. And then after that, like dad and mum were just like, look, it's going to be pretty interesting here for the next, like, however long. You should probably just go now. And I was like, yeah. And then just told dad that even though I just spent 2 years like studying.
What were you studying? You said drawing, but was it like?
Yeah, so I was studying animation, and then
Is it a
I was
bachelor's
also
degree?
going to and then I was also going to Wellington School of Drawing, and I just told dad, I was like, I wanted to be a concept artist.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, it's essentially just someone who works on like, you know, like H.R. Geiger. You know how he
Yeah.
like created like Alien essentially.
Uh-huh.
He would be a concept artist for Alien.
Oh, coming up with like the world and the idea that alien grows out of.
And like movies or games would go to him and be like, look, we're interested in this creature, but we don't know what it looks like. And he was like, cool, like, I got you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you said to dad, I want to be a concept artist.
Yeah, well, like before I went to New Zealand, and then I came back, so I want to be a tattoo artist.
Okay.
And
Your dad's like, fucking pick something,
yeah,
please.
He's like, at least you're in the same kind of vein in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I just like gave it my all for 2 years, and kind of a very limiting medium, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay. I was actually, that's one of the questions I had written down
Yeah.
here in this little book. I wanted to try and understand like what the difference is when you sit down and you've got a tattoo gun in your hand and you're working on someone's skin as opposed to you're working on the canvas. I imagine, like, do you feel nervous or did you feel nervous when you were sitting down and tattooing someone? I imagine there's also like there's a massive amount of trust and like maybe even intimacy. Like how do you feel that experience of tattooing someone is compared to working on a canvas?
Tattooing is very much like it's great when someone comes to you and they're like, I love what you do and I love your art and I think it's amazing and I want it on my body, and that is an incredible thing in itself. I think that's really special. But like it is more about them in a way. Like it's more about what they want and how they want it to sit, because they have to live with it their whole life.
Yeah, they got to wear it.
Yeah, so it's utmost importance that they like it.
Okay.
So you kind of, you know how you tattoo and how you like to tattoo and kind of what kind of things you can do, and then you kind of, it's more of like a collaboration between the two. It's like, oh, I like this, but I wish you could change that. And that's really fun. Like, it's really fun to work with someone like that on the day too. You know, it's just like really impulsive. It's like,
Yeah, like improvising a bit.
yeah, and you're like, oh, this is the idea I had, but then it evolves into something that's kind of really different.
Okay.
But you can't necessarily, like when you're tattooing kind of reason is different to, well, for me at least, is different to pursuing art.
Okay. What was the reason for tattooing?
I knew I wanted to make money doing art and like support myself. And I also thought it was like, I'm interested in tattoos, and I thought all this combination of like interested in tattoos, wanting to make money, and thinking it as like a cool job. Like I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds like me.
Yeah.
Trying it out, probably not me.
Probably not you.
No.
When did you realize that? Because 2.5 years of like really going for it. Did you feel somewhere like year and a half, or I'm not sure about this, or did you know like this didn't feel right from the beginning?
Well, like there's always things would happen like you can get really excited about like a design that you create, and then someone wants it and you're like, wow, this is incredible, I get to tattoo this on someone's body now. And then, you know, like you prepare for the week prior and you're like making sure everything's perfect because you're really stoked about this, and then that person doesn't show up.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you're like fuck, like
Get stood up for the day. Yeah.
And like it's not like that's not the worst thing, but like, you know, it can be quite jarring to be so stoked to do something and then it not be very dependent on someone else.
Yeah, the other people.
So like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of way I like to live my life is not necessarily worrying about things that are out of my control. And tattooing was this weird mix of things that are in my control and also things that are out of my control.
Yeah, you got to deal with other people, right? It gets kind of messy.
Yeah.
That's funny. It came into my head. It's like, oh, maybe Finn doesn't just like he doesn't like playing with others so much. But like, but I know that's like that sounds like a kind of mean way of putting it. But I do like I had the similar kind of thing happen where we're trying to organize bands and band members leaving and people going overseas and people aren't practicing and things like that. And you're like, how can you make people want this as much as you want it? And the answer is you can't, right? You can't control these things.
Yeah.
So getting to the necessary conclusion was like, well, if you can only control the one thing that's you, and then what can I do where it's just me and the work? So you talked a bit, let me just check to make sure this is recording, because if this isn't recording, then that's fine. We can work with it. This is, by the way, first time doing an interview, guaranteed that there's going to be some cock-ups. But, so we talked about tattoo art, working on people, and I'm trying to compare it to working on a canvas. And you've mentioned this reoccurring thing of, you know, you have this idea that you're really excited about, these designs that you work on, the prep, and then it comes down to a crunch moment, and sometimes they don't show up. I can even imagine, you know, you have a design, and I'm looking at designs over here, which they look awesome. That horse is so sick. But you have these designs, and even you said it in a positive way, you know, collaborating with someone who wants to move it somewhere else so they have alterations. That sounds hard in a way too. Like you've got the idea that you want, and they say that they want it, and then they come in and they say, I actually maybe a little bit different here, a little bit different there. So you have to change.
Yeah, I mean, like that comes with mindset. Like if you're going into it thinking it's going to be solid, exactly how you thought of it's going to happen, then there's no room for movement there, and you're stubborn. Okay. So you kind of got to go into it with open eyes and not really mind too much about like the little bits. Just the overall fact that you're doing it is what's good about it.
Yeah. Okay.
I also just didn't really like I would spend like hours and hours like making designs, and then I'd post that design and no one would get it, and that's fine. But also like if I'm working constantly on these designs, I want there to be meaning behind it. I want it not to just have this kind of like if it's just a design, that's it, you know?
Okay.
It's cool, and it's cool for a tattoo because design works perfectly for tattoo because you can just have it on your body. It doesn't have to mean anything. It's just you like it. And for me, it kind of changed where it's like art is a little bit more about why you make art. And if I create a picture and post it, I don't really care if people like it or not.
Yeah, okay.
It's more, I get all that gratification from just finishing it and showing people. And the feeling, like, the feeling's so much different now. Like, from working really hard and releasing it, it's like now with tattooing, it was like working really hard, releasing it, and then disappointment.
Yeah.
But now it's like working really hard, releasing it, and just feeling like over the moon about it.
Yeah, I can imagine like the tattoo doesn't really get to have an actual life unless someone gets it.
Yeah.
Right? They
Yeah.
put it on their body.
Yeah.
Yeah. You said that this is something that I thought about when because I talked to a few people, they got tattoos on them, and the classic question is like, oh, what does it mean, or why did you get that? And people will say, oh, it doesn't mean anything. I just like it. And as you say, and I do really wonder if that's true. Like they might not have some well thought out idea as to this is the exact reason that I got like the daffodil on my shoulder or something. I just like daffodils. But I think the fact that, using the daffodil as the example, the fact that like you are someone who got a daffodil on their shoulder, that means something in the sense that it means that you are the kind of person who would get a daffodil on their shoulder. So it actually shows something about your personality.
Yeah.
And you see some people that have completely like comical tattoos and they say, oh, it's just stupid. It doesn't mean anything. It's like, it means that you're the kind of person who would get a comical tattoo on your body, right? Like it shows something probably deep about your personality, even though you might not be able to articulate that.
100%.
Right? Like it seems kind of silly that people would be like, oh, I just got this thing permanently on my body that I like, but it doesn't mean anything. It's like, you like it though. It shows something. Like it means that you like it. Why do you like it?
I think like we don't necessarily like, just because we woke up in the morning doesn't mean we get out of bed and we go do our day. Like we wake up in the morning and we have meaning behind our life because we give our life meaning and we give ourselves purpose. So it's exactly like art or a tattoo, where in the sense of like, it doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it's all about what meaning you give it as a person, and someone else's meaning might be different just because that's the meaning they'll give it.
Yeah. I also think in that though, that I think there's a lot going on where people might not even, because you talk to people and they'll say like it is meaningless, the tattoo, and I really, I really think it's almost impossible for it to be meaningless. You know what I mean? Like, even if like, I agree with you in the sense that we're ascribing meaning to the world as we go out.
Yeah.
But the fact that like you can be consciously aware that you are ascribing meaning, or that you know what the meaning is. I feel like a lot of the time you're going through life and you don't know why you're doing things. You just say, I just did it because I liked it, or
right.
it feels right. And you might not know why. It's like that. I got that tattoo because it felt right. I don't know why, but like, the answer might be because of whatever gives meaning. Yeah. Okay. So from tattooing, right? So you decided when to start jumping into the painting as opposed to tattooing.
Yeah. So I met this guy and he's quite well off, and I said to him, this is like when I started having these feelings of wanting to change into art. This person just came into my life, and
how far through was this in the tattoo career?
It was just like 4 months ago.
Oh wow!
So towards the end, and I told him, I was like, oh, I'm a tattoo artist, but I want to be an artist. Like I want to really go for it. And he was like, oh, like how can I help out? And I was like, yeah, well, I don't know. How would you like to help out? And he's like, oh, I'm looking for a mural in my living room. And I was like, I've never done that before, but I'll give it my best shot. And I think I made an impression on him in a way, and it worked out really well.
What was the mural?
It was a shot of the Dandenong Forest, looking up to the sky.
Yeah, that's when I messaged you.
Yeah.
I messaged you being like, how much is that? Because I wanted to buy it. So I don't have any money, but I want that. And you're like, it's on someone's wall, man. Shit.
We got a jackhammer.
Yeah, I go in there. He's well off. Okay, so he's come into your life and he's given you your first opportunity.
Yeah. Basically,
that's awesome.
Just kind of, it also made me realize like it doesn't really matter about about whether or not something will make you money or whether or not something is a smarter decision. It's more about how much you want it and how much, you can make money doing anything if you really want to. If you're determined enough and passionate enough and you don't quit, there'll be light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, I agree. When it came to the idea of like committing to music, the realization that like the skills that you acquire along the way whilst you're committing to that journey are going to be able to serve you in a financial way. So like it might take a little while,
Yeah.
but like you're going to get to a point where if you're actually spending the amount of hours and the amount of time that it is required if you want to be dedicated to the craft.
Yeah.
If you spend that time, you're just going to have skills that people are going to want.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you done the mural 4 months ago,
Yeah.
and
Finished it end of June, I think, or start of July, maybe actually.
so I saw the you post like the finished product, and it made an impression on me.
Oh, that's good.
That was cool. So did you have other people messaging you and saying like this is great? Did you get a little bit
Yeah,
of
I had a
positive?
friend wanting a mural as well. But you know, like I said, there's a reason I'm doing art, and I don't necessarily want to be doing murals, like especially because murals, the only reason I would paint a landscape, like it work like same with tattoos, like works really well for a living room, and like I think it brings a lot of light and brings nature into the home in a way, and I think that's really incredible. And also like when you look at it, you kind of are reminded of nature, and I think that's really important, especially living in the city.
Yeah.
But again, it's very design focused. Unless I was doing art for climate change or some kind of world focus like that, then you know I probably wouldn't paint landscapes in the future.
Yeah, there's this this reoccurring thing that keeps coming back. Like, there's a reason that I'm doing art. Is what you're saying. Like, there's a reason I'm doing it. Like,
Yeah.
What's the reason?
Yeah, like it's gonna sound ambitious, but I want to change the world.
Okay.
Through my art, I want to make a difference, and my art's to do with humanity, and I think we are, I don't know, a lot of us feeling a lot of pressure from a lot of issues in the world, like whether it be like poverty, the gap between the rich and poor, or like addiction, climate change, like the wars that we have, like it's ongoing, the list. And you kind of look at that, and like I knew a few years ago, I kind of would look at all that and be like, there's no hope for us.
Yeah, there's
you
no
know?
getting out.
Why am I going to have kids in this world?
Yeah, that's such a big one. Hey.
And like, I think that's really horrible thing, because as humans, we have this incredible ability to just make things happen from ideas and make things just work. And I don't believe that these issues will prevent us having a long and prosperous life for the whole world. Like, I believe all these issues are improving in some sense of another. Like world hunger, for example. Like we are improving. We are feeding more and more people every single day. But a lot of us believe that this is an issue that can't exactly be solved or isn't being solved.
Yeah, man. There was I was listening to a lecture on history, the Industrial Revolution. It was saying like I think we're in the 18th century. And it was like 95% of the human population were living on the equivalent of $1.50 American a day or less.
Yeah.
It's like complete poverty for everyone except for 5%.
Yeah.
And then of that 5%, you know, like 1% are actually like living it up crazy, and then 1% of that 1%, as it always goes. But like the fact that you can go from 200 years ago where everyone is starving to now it's what you'd have, not 50% of people, 40%, 30%. You just know that it's getting smaller and smaller. So you became optimistic.
Yeah, 100%. That's what my art. That's what I want to move forward. I want to bring that message of hope between from if we believe that it's going to be shit and things are just going to get worse and worse and worse, they will. This is
prophecy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I believe that we have this superpower and that we can make these changes, and moving forward it's not going to be hard as long as we just make those changes and put parameters in place so we can make those changes. It's just about belief. Like anything we do is all about like for example, like something like money, or like you know, you go to the store and you buy a product, that product's on the shelf because someone had the idea to put that product on the shelf. The reason putting that product on the shelf is probably capitalism, but you know, you go and buy that product, and from this store that's a company, and this company exists because all these people believe it exists. Yes, it has physical stores, but it's also something that's like quite bigger, and this idea that it is quite a big thing is only comes from people accepting that idea that it does exist. And that concept can move on from so many different things, like from religion, for example. Like religion only exists because someone had the idea that we need it for this reason or that reason, and someone, you know, has that idea to make it happen. And, you know, I just think that that's incredible superpower that we have to do
It
this.
is, yeah.
Every single thing
Yeah.
that exists in this world is because someone had the idea to make that happen.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? That you can have an idea in your head, and it doesn't exist in the world.
Yeah.
And then you can pursue it,
Yeah.
and then it exists in the world, and it starts like influencing people.
Yeah.
It is. So you had this optimist. Did you get pushback from that? So you went from this kind of fatalistic perspective, and I think this is a really common arc for people's beliefs, and a lot of people don't get out of it.
Yeah.
You have a naive optimism
Yeah.
of the world as like a kid. You don't
Yeah.
understand the gravity of the world that you're living in. You don't know what like evil is. You've never met anyone who actually wants to hurt other people. You've never actually seen unless you grow up in a family or in a situation, an environment where you are faced with that early on, and those people are going to mature and adapt in a certain way. But
Yeah.
for most of us growing up where we grew up, you have a naive optimism about the world. Everything's kind of rose tinted.
Yeah.
And then you start realizing that there is this incredible amount of, there's incredible powers that are influencing the world to try and get what they want, and it's not really in the best interest of anyone. And then you realize all these issues, like you mentioned, climate
Yeah.
change, poverty, the wars that we've got going
Yeah.
on, these arguments about what identity is and so on. It's just so crazy, right? And you're like, how are we ever going to get out of this? And you get to a kind of a nihilism from your naive optimism, right?
Yeah,
You fall down.
You feel inferior. You
Yeah.
feel like you can't.
You're in a hole and you can't
Yeah.
get out. And then there's this next step that I think a lot of people don't take because I don't know how like learning how to take it or trying to figure out how to make that switch, which is I see the world. I'm more informed now. I see how bad things are. Like there's no denying that things are really bad for a lot of people. And like you're saying, if you just keep, if you stay in that nihilistic headspace, then it's just going to stay bad. It's going to
Yeah.
get worse.
Yeah.
But then you make this decision, like I see it as bad, and regardless of that, I believe we can make it better if we try. And then you get into this new step of like it's informed optimism as opposed to that naive optimism. You
Yeah.
just come out, and with the
Yeah.
informed optimism, you're so much stronger
Yeah.
because you're like, I know that at least to some extent, I know what I got to work against.
Yeah.
Like I got to work against these
Yeah.
things that are actually really, really heavy.
Yeah. Some of the most powerful people in the world, like, just come out of just taking someone off. You know, someone has had this belief and made a change and become a ruler of some sort, and then that power has got to their head and they've used it for, you know, wrong reasons. And then someone else has come along and said, yeah, actually, you know what, I can do the same thing and I will do the same thing to stop this person. And I feel like that is just an incredible thing that we do. And it's just from the fact that we believe that we can.
The idea of I like this ambitious goal, man. It's really cool to hear someone talk about that. I don't know, man. Maybe are you sensitive about that? I don't imagine you go touting that to everyone that you meet at a party, just like I'm going to change the world, man. Like,
No,
me,
like I said,
you're gonna see me in 10 years, and I'm going to change the world.
You can talk about it as much as you want, but
Yeah.
the only time you'll see recognition is if you actually do it.
Yeah. There's there's a psychological phenomenon that when you talk about your plans, you actually get like the release of dopamine,
Yeah.
a small one akin to is if you're actually doing them.
Yeah.
And you see, like, you can get hooked on just talking about what you're going to do,
Yeah.
right? And it feels good. Like, I'm
Yeah.
going to go to the gym and I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to get so buff. It's going to be great. And so on. And then you get enough of the good feeling about that, but like you never really commit to doing it. So there is I hear some authors and some people talk about like, I don't talk about my plans until I know that I've made really good progress or they're almost finished.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I'm just like talking about a fantasy.
Yeah.
So you've got this ambition and you've got this kind of informed optimism. How do you think art changes people and changes the world?
Well, I guess like for me, it's my way of doing it. Like if I was if I studied politics and I was into politics, then I'd be doing this in a totally different way. But I studied art and I studied how to draw and I love art and it's like my passion. So I can use that as my tool in a way to get what I wanted to get done.
Yeah. Okay. So is this correct? That you would do it no matter what field that you happen to invest your time into. It just happened to be art.
Yeah, like I don't know, maybe in a different life, I'm a builder and I want to change the world building, and you know, it's just different tools, different medium, different industry.
So when you're when coming back to the paintings that we're seeing, where do these ideas come from?
Like, I guess I have this idea that I want, where I want to go with my art. So I'll just find images and things that I know I can change and alter to kind of get my point across in a way. This piece is like about humanity, and I guess it is. It's pretty like shocking in a way. Like it's like can be quite dark.
Yeah. I'm only really seeing it for the first
Yeah.
time. It's like we've got a guy in what looks like a hazmat suit or like something like that carrying a child.
Yeah, it's kind of SES firefighter vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, like anything that I see that I know I can visually describe through a painting and might make someone feel a bit of hope towards the world or may change someone's belief in some way about how they feel or invoke some sort of feeling of happiness, then I'm all for that.
So the paintings, you have the kind of through line, the goal going through each painting of trying to induce a feeling of happiness and hope.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I mean, like, I have one down here that's about choice, like about the fact that we do have this choice, whether or not to choose light or dark in a way, and you know, everything that I've painted so far has had some kind of stem from that. Yeah.
Are you have you sold any of the pieces that you've been making?
Not in the last like month. Like I said, just solidifying like a style and a way a way I want to do things, and then now moving forward, I'll start getting a body of work together they all resemble each other in a way.
Okay, so when you're coming to trying to find a style, is this the kind of style that they're all going to be variations on the theme of?
Yeah, I'd say it's still pretty early days.
Yeah.
But I say a lot of this stuff would come from how I learned to draw and like, you know, everything that influenced me through animation and stuff like that. Like this obsession with movement from animation. Like everything has to be moving in my painting,
Yeah.
or like there has to be some element of moving, just because I just like the look of that. And like color palette and everything is still also very influenced from like design and you know, because you can kind of tell a story through color. And if the colors you're choosing are really important, and there has to be some kind of harmony. If there is no harmony with your colors, then that's, well, not necessarily, it's different for everyone, but like harmony with colors for me is also kind of, it speaks to that bigger message as well. Like if you can paint harmony in a painting just with color, then people feel that harmony.
Yeah, what is an example of what like harmony in color looks like?
Like for instance, like like the color wheel,
Yep.
like the opposite of the color wheel. So like
Is
colors.
that the most unharmonious or the most like
No,
disjointing?
they're the colors that work.
Oh, the opposite?
Yeah.
Okay.
So like red and green, they're colors that just complement each other and just work really well together.
Okay.
And like in my opinion, blue and orange, and that scale kind of tips a lot for me. Like whether it's be yellow and blue or blue and orange, and like you can kind of combine or like kind of stretch it a little bit, and that's what makes it interesting, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Why do you think they work together?
Well, it's just what I think works.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But like we were saying before we started recording that no person is so individualistic that their tastes are purely like an island and no one else has those tastes. Like
Yeah.
what you like or what you're and the style that you're developing in this kind of thread that you're pulling on and you're following, it is resonating with people, the small audience you have right now, because it got my eye and I came in and I was like, this is really cool. You're doing something I really like. So it is what you like, but at the same time, that necessarily means, because you're a human being, that is what a lot of people like.
Yeah, and it's also like from my when it comes to color theory, like from my training, it's like that's what someone identified as colors that are harmonious, and that was taught to me. So I understand that now, and it makes sense. Like I don't necessarily like I definitely you see artists like all over the world like changing that and actively doing the opposite as like a fuck you.
Yeah.
But like it's all dependent on the artist and what you like, I guess.
It's like the inheritance of like the tradition.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you see it in just like with music, because this is what I have as a reference to it. Is that you have like a pop song, and like a pop song is going to be within its constraints.
Yeah.
And if you study pop music, you know the kind of things that are going to exist within the pop constraints.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that it's going to sound exactly the same every time.
No.
It just means that in order for it to be a pop song, it's got to follow like verse, chorus kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I imagine it's very similar. And then you have things like jazz or people moving and getting more experimental, and they'll intentionally create very jagged and brutal things.
And then when we have this like baseline of understanding, it's like, oh, I could see where that person decided to not do what everyone assumes is the right thing to do. And then I feel like that's kind of special in itself, because it's like people that know that music theory and understand that music theory, that's a little like excitement, because it's like, oh, this is interesting, this is
it moved to where I wasn't expecting it to move.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess one thing that I've got written down here is that what I'm trying to understand is why do people spend time on art? What is it people are doing when you're creating art? So when you're working on a painting like this, before you put that is it a brush that you're using?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Palette
knife and a
whatever
brush.
I can.
Cool.
Finger sometimes.
Cool. Whenever are you making, before you put it down, are you like really thinking before you put it down exactly what it's going to look like, or do you just have to make a plunge and like?
Yeah, I'd say it'd be very similar to music in the sense of like, you don't necessarily know. You have all this experience and all this training of what you like, what you don't like, and what you understand about it. You don't necessarily know what that's going to correlate to until you start. And then you start and you go, oh, I like that. Keep that.
Yeah.
I don't like that. Get rid of that.
Dude, that's something I'm glad that this is where the questioning is gone, because I had this thought the other day of like when you're having a conversation, or when you're working on a bit of art, or I imagine it's similar in a lot of areas of life, but you haven't got anything on the canvas yet, and you know you got to make a start, so you'll have like a reference or something like that, so that has already given you a bit of inspiration, and that thing itself, like there's this thing inside the bit of inspiration, the reference that's calling you to follow it, and that's so strange, right?
Yeah.
And then like you are trying to be in tune with it and follow it.
Yeah.
You're trying to follow it along, and then you might and make a mistake,
Yeah.
and then the energy that you had just like dips, and
Yeah.
sometimes you can feel like you just slipped off a cliff, and you're like,
Yeah.
how do I get back?
Yeah.
You know, can you speak about something like that? Does that make you think of anything?
Yeah, well, like when something like that happens, like the biggest rule for me would just be continue. And like if every single time, like you started on a piece and you gotten to a point maybe you don't like it, and you're like, okay, I'm ready to move on. You move on, maybe you start another painting or another bit of music, and then you come back to it. And that's not going to change unless you just sit there and give it the time to make some change. And sometimes that thing that you didn't like turns into something you really, really like, because it's just like you just went for it and you just decided, I'm going to make that work. And I don't really care. Sometimes it turns out and it's shit. You're just polishing it shit.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay. Then it comes like experience. You recognize it. And you're like, okay, cool. Bin it. Otherwise, you know, like the only way you're going to figure it out is just like continuing.
Yeah, it's interesting, the idea of the following that feeling of you know, you make a step and you feel like it's the right step, it feels solid, and you get more energy from it, you get more inspiration, and you feel that itself becomes a skill that you get better and better at. Like you can follow. I guess that's what people would, but maybe that's the idea of like that flow state, is that you're really
100%.
locked into it, and you can just follow it the whole way, and sometimes you won't make a mistake, and then like maybe when you first start, you only get there 1 every 10 times you're flowing, and then it's 2, then it's 3, then it's 4, and so on. You just got to keep hitting that.
And I love that. And I love that about painting. Like when I first go down with something and it's very expressive, and I'm not thinking, I have my reference, but I'm not thinking too much about the reference. Just the fact that what the reference is telling me to do. And then it's my idea. It's my kind of, I'm the filter, I guess. So like, and everyone's filter is different when they find their inspiration. And I'll start off very expressively and like incredibly just flow state, because you've got a clean canvas. So the only way to fill it is just to keep getting things on there.
Yeah.
So, and during the flow state at the start is like super important. And you just, because you haven't really invested much time into it, you're not really scared about fucking it up. You just keep going at it. And I think that's when the most incredible things happen. When with anything you're creating, when you're just completely locked in.
Yeah, that idea that there's you got a blank canvas there, so it could be anything, it could be nothing. It's almost like you've got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
like there's not going to be a mistake with the first brush stroke. I mean, there is the trap though that I know of myself, a few friends with music, they get into where, you know, they have the first line of the lyric, the first couple of chords or something like that. You have the first brush stroke. And immediately that critic comes in, trying to tell you like the next brushstroke needs to be like this, it needs to be like that, and you start like, trying to correct yourself too quickly. Do you find yourself getting into that?
Let go of, you just got to let go of that. Like regardless of whether or not your goal needs to be not to create a nice piece or create something you like, but to do it. If my goal is to spend 1 hour doing it, then I'm just going to spend 1 hour doing it, regardless of the result. And like if you can kind of hold yourself back in a way like that, as well as you can pull yourself forward.
Yeah. So, okay. So once you've got all of you've got like so right here. How many hours have you spent on this guy?
This one's like 3 days, so maybe like just under 30 hours.
And at this stage, the idea of that, you know, making bold movements and getting yourself into that flow state, I imagine that's not true as much anymore.
Yeah, so now I'm at like an interesting point where I've kind of like I've done a lot of this flow that I really enjoy, and there's elements that I don't like about it, and I just need to sit down and make them good enough. So it's, so I like it. And there's elements I don't like about it that I've just rubbed out and gone over and rubbed out and gone over and rubbed out and gone over. But like, I can do that forever. So I kind of said to myself today, I'm just going to finish it.
Okay.
And however result it is, that's how it is.
When you when do you know it's finished?
I don't know. You just kind of like, it's when you're probably working on stuff that's doesn't really need to be worked on, like that doesn't really matter, like fine details where it's like, oh, I could, with like music, like I could change this pitch or change this a little bit, and you kind of get to that point where you're just like finicking at it, and it's like it's the straight line, and then it's like up and down. You're like so up and down with it. It's like, okay, cool, just finish it, come back to it maybe in like a week's time.
Yeah.
And then you can add some stuff that you might see that you didn't see before.
Yeah, that letting it stew kind of thing. Yeah, I do that with songs for sure. When you get into these ridiculously fine details, and you just got to pull yourself out of it at a certain stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like when it's like 90% complete and you're doing stuff like that, like when you put it down, it's 90% complete and you pick it back up. That's like when the best work is created, because you just like stuck it out to get to that 90%, and then you come in with fresh eyes and you're like, oh, if I just change that, and then you're like, suddenly it's done.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, what are your plans with the? So you've working on this body of work.
Yeah.
And how many paintings is a body of work? And then what are you planning on doing with it?
Yeah, I guess it's just dependent on what space I choose to show at, and what kind of work, how many works they can handle. So probably like, I'd say a good sweet spot is like 5 to 10. Yeah.
Do you have any finished?
I have a lot that are like.
I recognize it is very early days too. I'm just like, you gotta be. Are you done yet?
well, like everything down here is like 60 to 80% complete.
Okay.
So that's exactly what they're doing right now. Is that
Stewing.
I've got to the point where I just can't do any more on, and that I'll just pick it up again once I finish one. And pick it up, and then hopefully see the light in some aspect.
Okay.
Hope.
So an exhibition in do you have also a deadline for that for yourself?
No. I think my goal was just to finish this body of work and then find a space for it.
Yeah. Okay. What's the process like of finding a space? I have no idea.
It's pretty strange, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like. For established artists, it might be more of a case of like galleries coming to you and asking to show your work, or because it's kind of like help me help you kind of thing. For people that have just started, like, and have never done an exhibition before, kind of what I'm realizing, it is a business, like just like anything, and if you're willing to pay money to get your work out there, then you can do that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the better line. Like if you can give something to a gallery, whether it be like a larger audience or money or, then that's all you really need.
Yeah. Okay. And I guess the idea of your like social media presence and so on comes to play so heavily into this, right?
Sure.
If you can come to a gallery and be like, look at the amount of people that are paying attention to my art right now, and that we're going to be able to bring this many people in.
Yeah.
And then
And I've seen people with like 30K followers, and I go to their show and there's like 5 people in the room.
Fuck.
And I'm like, see, I feel like it's so much dependent on the person. And if you're a kind of person that kind of can bring people into a room, then like that's all you need really.
Yeah, it's
like being in a band. You can see some great bands that can be quite socially awkward in a sense, and no one's really vibing in the room. You kind of feel that awkward energy. you go to like a smaller gig and you see like 5 or 6 passionate individuals, then you really get that energy. It comes off. More people want to be there.
Yeah.
To experience that.
Yeah. It's absolutely, when it comes to the live music, the idea of to ask people to come out and spend their night and bit of their money and their time to go into a room, and you're gonna like barrage them with fucking music. Like, it's a lot to ask if you think about the fact that you're not guaranteed to have fun.
Yeah.
And that surely, like, it's their weekend, it's their night out. You want to make it something that they when they go away from it, they feel like they got something really worthwhile. Do you get that when you go to galleries?
Yeah, well, I guess I guess it just depends on like if I want to put on a show, it's what I really want to do, and I know I'm gonna have a great time. So naturally, that's gonna trickle down, and other people have a good time too. I hope.
Yeah.
But like, if I'm going in the idea of like, oh, I don't want to waste people's time, then I'm gonna be wasting people's time. But yeah. Sorry, what was it?
I was just thinking about the idea of, like, you want to be creating a certain experience.
Yeah.
From because people are spending their time in there.
Yeah.
And so I imagine what we said, you'd be wanting to, you want people to come in there and for them to feel more hopeful.
Yeah.
And optimistic.
Yeah, it's kind of a different. I love the idea of exhibitions because you can kind of customize a space to invoke a certain feeling, and I think that's really incredible when people walk in and they're like, "Wow, okay, this is not really sure how to feel, but I'm feeling something of energy." I like that a lot.
It's so cool. It's so I haven't spent too much time in art galleries. If I see them around, I'll make sure I go out to them. And I guess it's the same with music. I go to see gigs, I see live bands play, or I listen to releases that artists have put out, and like 1 in 10 might actually make you feel that thing, and then it might make you feel a little bit disillusioned with it. You don't really want to go out so much because 90% of the time you're like, it's not that great.
Yeah.
But then you go and you see that one, and you go, oh, that's why.
For sure. I like in the last few months, I've just been going in and out of galleries and kind of getting a sense of how people show their work, and also like how exhibition spaces are curated and all these different things. And if I go, you kind of know very quickly whether or not you like it or not.
Yeah.
And that's it's not really something you can help. But it's not necessarily about whether or not you like it. It's whether or not you feel something from it. Like if you go into a band room, and like the people on stage are just having the best time, you're gonna feel some of that, and it's gonna be nice. You're gonna maybe you don't like the music, but you had a good time anyway. You're like, you don't really know why. It's like, okay, well.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, man. The importance of the front man in a band.
Yeah.
Even if the people in the room don't like the music, if the front man can get you to laugh.
Yeah.
Or something like that. They're funny as hell. That's so good.
And then someone's gonna think back and it's like, actually, I had a good time.
Yeah.
And that's it's really the only thing that matters.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that idea of you really quickly if you like it or not, and it's not really something you can decide upon. It's a feeling.
Yeah.
Right. It's that. I remember, I don't know what I was listening to, when the kind of wisdom came through in this interview or so on, when they said, you don't decide what's beautiful. You can't. It just is.
Yeah.
You just turn the corner and you see the building or you see the flowering tree or whatever it is, and it's just bang.
Yeah.
And it just fucking hits you.
Yeah.
And you don't have no decision in that. And it's just I guess that's one of the reasons why I wanted to start interviewing you and other artists. Is I want to understand a little bit more about what's going on, and I don't Finn, tell me what's going on. Why do we find things beautiful? But it's just the fact that is just so fascinating, right? And I suppose that's going to be a massive part why anyone pursues the creation of art. But then at the same time, do you ever feel? Because you've experienced that with art, right? You've experienced it by seeing someone's piece and it's just floored you. Is that ever a judge that's sitting on your shoulder?
To be honest, no. If I'm not really too much of a critic when it comes to how people work, because I know how people work is very much how they enjoy working, or what they enjoy. And if they find enjoyment out of it, and I can see that they found enjoyment out of it, then that says a lot. You know, it says like this person is really achieving something because they're loving what they do, and then they're ready to show it. And like, you can walk into an art gallery and you can kind of tell whether or not someone either loves it, or someone has spent a lot of time on it, or someone's just kind of like, someone's just kind of throwing art up on the wall and being like, please buy it, you know? Like,
Yeah.
like you can understand that quite quickly. Well, at least I feel like I can, because I don't know. It's my job, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. The what was I thinking just then? You were saying, you know, you can see if someone's enjoying it, and you're seeing if they're loving it. I also have, I think it's called Red Gallery in Fitzroy North. You know that one? It's like free and open all the time. It's got a little cafe in the front. There's a music shop close by, so when I'm there, I pop in. And there was this guy that had done this exhibition, and his little bio was explaining that he'd gone through, you know, heroin addiction and basically poverty and so on. And you're looking at these artworks, man, and to say that it was like enjoyment that was in the art is an interesting choice of words. There's obviously a passion of some sort, but it was very dark.
Yeah.
And obviously there's a lot of music and a lot of art where you look at it and it's like, this is like upsetting and scary. And it's like the idea that it's enjoyment, you know, do you ever create from that kind of place?
Yeah. I feel like maybe, it's more just like you have it, you can see if someone has it in them and they have this like drive to get it out, then you know, that can come across as so many different things. Like you know, someone who is into like screamo music, like for a lot of people that might be full on, and for a lot of people that might be, it's quite dark for them, and quite, they must be in a very dark place. But then you talk to some people that do play screamo music and they're very happy
and
individuals.
Having fun. Yeah, having fun.
They're just like, no, I just love the way this sounds. Like it's not necessarily, they might be singing about dark things, but like that's just kind of like what you end up liking in a way. That's what makes you. It's your individual taste.
I don't think I have anything else to ask you, man. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
agreeing to do it. This has been fun.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And good luck with everything. I look forward to seeing your exhibition whenever this happens.
Yeah.
For all of the people that are listening to this, where should they go to try and follow you?
Fuck.spiders.
I was actually thinking before, a couple of weeks ago when we had organized this, I was like, you know, I'm pretty sure YouTube and Instagram algorithms, like, they downgrade you based on swear words.
Yeah.
And the fact that your bio literally says fuck in it, I'm like, okay. Makes it a little harder.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I thought about changing it, but honestly, like, I don't know. Yeah, if regardless of my Instagram handle, I'm still gonna make things work.
Yeah, and you know, I don't know if that's really going to be. The thing that didn't work out for Finn is that his Instagram handle was fuck spiders. Everything else was perfect except the Instagram handle. That's not going to be the problem.
I think maybe for the algorithm, I might be bad, and I agree with that. But like, it's also pretty memorable in a way. And for me, everything's about human connection. So if I can connect to a human that way, just from a little silly thing like that, then that's pretty special.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to connect to a robot.
Yeah, cool. That's good, man. That's good. Well, fuck spiders. Thanks, man.
Thank you.